The autumn of 1823 settled over Lancaster County, Pennsylvania, like a heavy woolen blanket. The leaves had turned their familiar shades of amber and crimson, and the air carried the scent of wood smoke from countless chimneys. In the small town of Millerville, where everyone knew their neighbor's business, the Hartwell funeral home stood at the end of Maple Street like a quiet sentinel. Thomas Hartwell had built his reputation on compassion and dignity. For 15 years, he had tended to the town's departed with gentle hands and a solemn voice that brought comfort to grieving families. His wife, Margaret, possessed the rare gift of knowing exactly what to say during life's darkest moments. Their twin sons, Samuel and Benjamin, had grown up among the somber rituals of death, learning the family trade with steady hands and respectful hearts. The people of Millerville trusted the Hartwells completely. When death visited a household, the family knew they could rely on Thomas to handle everything with proper care. The funeral home itself reflected this trust, a stately two-story building with tall windows and white columns, surrounded by carefully tended gardens that bloomed even as winter approached. But something had changed in recent months, though the townspeople couldn't quite place what troubled them. It began with small things. Families noticed that viewings seemed shorter than before. The Hartwells, once eager to accommodate any request, had become more insistent about closed casket services. For the dignity of the departed, Thomas would explain with his characteristic gentle smile, "Some griefs are too profound for public display." Sarah Mitchell, the town seamstress, was the first to voice her concerns. Her elderly mother had passed in late summer, and Sarah had sewn her finest dress for the burial. When she delivered it to the funeral home, Margaret Hartwell had accepted it with unusual haste. Barely glancing at the careful stitching, she seemed nervous. Sarah confided to her neighbor, Mrs. Eleanor Crowley, "Keep asking if I was certain about the closed casket, as if she didn't want me to see Mama one last time." Eleanor, a woman of considerable wisdom and intuition, had noticed other peculiarities. The Hartwell boys, once cheerful despite their somber profession, had grown pale and withdrawn. They no longer played with other children after church, instead hurrying home with downcast eyes. The most troubling change was in Thomas himself. The man who had once spent hours with bereaved families, offering counsel and comfort, now conducted business with efficient brevity. His gentle manner remained, but something cold had crept into his eyes, a distance that made even his kindest words feel hollow. As November settled over the town, bringing with it longer nights and bitter winds, 3 more deaths occurred within a single week. Old Mr. Peterson succumbed to a lingering illness. Young Mary Brennan died in a tragic accident with her horse, and the infant son of the Turner family passed after a brief fever. Each family received the same gentle insistence from the Hartwells about closed casket services. Each burial proceeded with the same quiet efficiency, and each bereaved family left the funeral home with the nagging feeling that something essential had been denied them. That final moment of peaceful goodbye. Eleanor Crowley could bear her suspicions no longer. On a gray morning when frost painted the windows white, she approached the funeral home under the pretense of ordering flowers for the church altar. The building stood silent in the early light, its windows dark and unwelcoming. She circled to the back of the property, where the Hartwells kept their preparation rooms. Through a small window, partially obscured by overgrown ivy, Eleanor glimpsed something that stopped her heart. The preparation table was empty, as it should be, but scattered around the room were personal belongings. A pocket watch she recognized as belonging to Mr. Peterson, Mary Brennan's silver locket, the tiny christening gown meant for the Turner baby. These items should have been buried with their owners. Final comforts for the journey beyond. More disturbing still were the wooden crates stacked against the far wall, crates that looked suspiciously like the ones used by the medical college in Philadelphia for transporting cadavers. Eleanor's discovery unraveled a horror that had hidden behind 15 years of trust and compassion. The Hartwells had indeed been caring for the dead, but not in the way their grieving clients believed. Bodies were being sold to medical schools hungry for specimens, while empty coffins received the prayers and tears of unknowing families. The gentle Thomas Hartwell, the compassionate Margaret, the respectful twin boys all had participated in this betrayal of the most sacred trust a family could place in another's hands. When Sheriff Morrison confronted the family with Eleanor's evidence and the testimony of several suspicious families, the facade finally crumbled. Thomas sat in his parlor, surrounded by the symbols of his supposed devotion to the dead, and confessed to 3 years of deception. It started with just one, he said, his voice barely above a whisper. A vagrant who died with no family to claim him. The medical college offered good money, and we told ourselves it served science. But the money, it became necessary. The business was failing, and we had debts. 1 became 2, then more. We told ourselves the families would never know, that it didn't matter to the dead. Margaret wept silently as her husband spoke, while Samuel and Benjamin stood frozen with shame. The weight of their actions had grown heavier with each deception, each empty coffin lowered into consecrated ground. The town's reaction was swift and decisive. The Hartwells were arrested and charged with multiple counts of fraud and desecration. Their funeral home was permanently closed, its windows boarded over like closed eyes. The building would stand empty for decades, a reminder of trust broken and sacred duties abandoned. But in the aftermath of horror, something unexpected emerged. The families who had been deceived found solace in their shared experience of betrayal and healing. They held a memorial service in the town square, speaking the names of their loved ones aloud and sharing memories that no deception could tarnish. Sarah Mitchell stood before the gathered crowd and spoke for them all. Our people may not rest where we intended, she said, her voice steady and clear. But love doesn't reside in the ground. It lives in our hearts, in our memories, in the way we carry their spirits forward. That truth no one can steal from us. The wind carried her words across the square, past the shuttered funeral home, and into the Pennsylvania hills beyond. In the months that followed, the town built a new cemetery with a simple memorial stone bearing the names of all who had been lost to the Hartwells. The Hartwell family disappeared into history, their name becoming a cautionary tale whispered in other towns, but Millerville endured, its people bound closer together by their shared experience of betrayal and recovery. They had learned that trust, once broken, we could be rebuilt not with the same innocence as before, but with the stronger foundation of wisdom earned through pain. And in the end, that wisdom served them better than innocence ever could.